Moving away from combat, we enter the Convoy, which serves as the base of operations in Gears Tactics. This is where all your characters hang out, where you recruit new ones, level them up, and handle other squad-related tasks. Now here's the bummer. There's no base building or upgrading. You can't research new tech, expand your convoy, or really interact with it in any meaningful way. It's just a static hub, which feels like a missed opportunity. Personally, I love the base management in XCOM. It gives you that extra sense of progression and investment. But here, it's more like, here's your base, it exists, move on. Character equipment is handled through a weird RPG-style loot system with loot boxes. Honestly, it's a strange choice that feels pretty out of place in a tactical strategy game. I still don't fully understand why some developers insist on putting loot boxes in offline games. It's baffling. But at least here, you can't buy them with real money. That would have been a disaster. So, thematically, it's a bit jarring. But if we ignore that for a second, the system is okay? The game incentivizes you to take on additional challenges, like don't use grenades or no support characters allowed, which is a fun twist, and the loot boxes are a decent incentive to take on these challenges. They also encourage you to explore each level, sometimes going out of your way just to find them. As for the loot itself, it's fine, but not particularly exciting or game-changing. You don't get new weapons, only mods for existing ones, which feels a bit cheap. There is some variety in armor, but it still felt a bit flat. It's functional, sure, but it doesn't give you that satisfying gear progression that games like XCOM absolutely nail. I never had that "wow, this changes everything" moment. It's more like, oh, cool, I guess I can shoot one more time now. An additional issue is that managing all this loot can get confusing and tedious. With so many characters to gear up and so much loot coming in, it's easy to lose track of who's got what. I found myself constantly wading through equipment menus, trying to remember which character needed which piece of armor. By the time you're deep into the game, you're swimming in loot, and the management side of it becomes more of a chore than anything else. Overall, the equipment system is a fair addition, but it's not a game changer. It can come in handy, an extra action point here, a free shot there, but it's not something I went out of my way to optimize. In other words, it adds some flavor, but doesn't define the game. This is a nice transition into a discussion about the difficulty of the game. Maybe my lukewarm feelings towards the equipment system stem from the fact that the game didn't challenge me much. I played on the 3rd out of 4 difficulties, which is described as experienced for seasoned turn-based tactics players who want a serious challenge. Sounded perfect for me. I wasn't looking for an unforgiving experience, just something tough. But I can't say it lived up to the description. It wasn't a cakewalk, but I also didn't struggle much. I didn't feel the need to carefully plan my team's composition, worry about skills, or meticulously gear up each character. I just went with whatever sounded cool, and it always worked out just fine. And by fine, I mean I finished the whole game with 0 casualties. That pretty much tells you everything about how tough it was. I'll explain that later. And I didn't resort to save scumming either. Actually, you can't really do that in this game. You can't save and reload mid-mission. Your only option is to restart the whole thing if you mess up. There are checkpoints, but for some reason the reload from checkpoint button sometimes still reloads the whole mission anyway. I think this system is meant to stop players from save scumming, which is something people often do in these games. But come on, it's a single player game. If someone wants to reload after every missed shot, you let them. There's no reason to police how people have fun. If you want a more hardcore experience, there's always Iron Man mode. All in all, playing on what was supposed to be a hard difficulty felt more like playing on normal, challenging but not very demanding. Except for a few missions that crank the difficulty way up for no apparent reason. They've become a bit infamous in the community for being significantly harder than the rest of the game, with no real explanation. For example, there are a couple of missions where you're given just 2 characters instead of the usual 4, but the enemies and mission objectives remain the same. This makes you incredibly underpowered, while the enemy is as strong as ever. Challenging? Yes. Fair? Not so much. Another mission has you running from bombardment while collecting supplies, but this time with only 2 action points per turn instead of 3. Trying to pick up supplies, avoid bombardment and fight enemies with just 2 AP is extremely tough. The difficulty spike is unreal, easily the hardest mission in the game, but I still managed to complete it on my first try with no casualties. This brings me to Jack, because I suspect that he is a culprit of the game being easier than anticipated. You've likely noticed that despite the 4 character squad I've been talking about, I always actually have 5 units in the field. That's because on every mission I've had the Jack of all trades robot, or just Jack. He's a companion robot that is present in almost every game in Gears franchise.
Jack, log in and see what you can find.
And was added to Gears Tactics in a big update, along with new loot, enemies and other features. Jack is an interesting, albeit weird addition. At the start of the game, you can decide whether to include him in your playthrough. If you do, he's there on every mission without taking up a squad slot. He's a pure support character, can't shoot, execute enemies or take cover, but he can cloak every turn and comes with a ridiculously powerful set of support abilities. His toolkit includes things like spawning guns for your team, reloading everyone's weapons, taking control of enemy units, stunning entire groups of enemies for 3 consecutive turns, and even granting the entire squad an extra action point. No one else in the game can do anything close to this. Naturally, having Jack on your team makes the game easier. Way easier. The odd part about Jack is that it doesn't feel like he was a part of the original game design. It almost feels like he was shoehorned in as an afterthought, with a post-release update. If they had written him into the story, it would have been pretty cool, but as it stands, he's just sort of there, making your life easier without much explanation. That said, I played the whole game with Jack, and I can't say I regret it. The squadmates have cool reactions to him.
See ya, Jack.
And he's a blast to use, even if he's way too strong for a free edition. Yeah, the game is noticeably easier with him around, but it's also more fun, so I'm not complaining. That wraps up this slice of my Gears Tactics review. Thanks so much for watching. Next time I'll be diving into topics like I really didn't feel connected to the majority of the characters, and where's the fun in that? That ended up being way more fun than I expected. He took no damage, totally nuts. Chainsaw Massacre Expert, 10 actions in a single turn. It wasn't about the weapons, it was about explosives. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to like and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and it really helps the channel out. Catch you in the next slice, or feel free to check out any of my previous videos in the meantime.